Hey, what are you doing with your face? Hi. Face is looking good. You got a good mug there. How you doing? Hey, Nick Digilio, that's me. Thanks for checking out my YouTube videos. I post them almost daily. There's like over 120 of them now. So if you've missed out on some of them, scroll down, look at them. I did a whole bunch of shit. Check it out. Have some fun. Leave some comments, all that stuff. Most importantly, check me out at Patreon, patreon.com/NickDShow. Become a patron now. By joining, making some monthly donations, and it helps me get my my content going, my videos going. You get exclusive videos that nobody else gets, including behind-the-scenes stories of what happened at WGN and more. I got one coming up in the coming few days. It'll be posted exclusively for patrons who donate on Patreon. So make sure you donate. Patreon.com/NickDShow. Go there now. Donate. Thank you. My podcast is the Nick D Podcast Radio Misfits Podcast Network. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Okay, I was just watching Ridiculousness, which is a show that I love. It's been on now for 43 seasons. In fact, if you turn on MTV at any time during the day, 24 hours a day, it's essentially become the Ridiculousness channel. It's just shown all the time. And I'm fine with that. I think Robert Dyrdek is funny. I think Stilo is cool. And Chanel West Coast, she's Chanel West Coast. What are you going to say about her? But the shit they show is funny. The way they do it is funny. The way they present it is hilarious. And I like it. I like to watch people fall down, and I like to watch three high morons who make millions of dollars because they make millions of dollars. Rob Dyrdek is like a multimillionaire. The guy is an idiot, and he's like a multimillionaire. And the three people, the job that they have, Stilo Brim, Chanel West Coast, and Rob Dyrdek, are to show stupid videos of people falling down, and they laugh at it, and they make a couple of jokes, and they're millionaires. Rob Dyrdek, very smart business guy, talented skateboarder, funny guy. Stilo Brim, charming, intelligent, very good-looking dude. I'm not sure what Chanel West Coast does. I've seen her videos. I've seen her rap. She sucks, but she has a laugh like a dolphin. So I guess that's why she can make $1 million a year sitting on a couch going, God bless America when those three people can make millions of dollars doing nothing. That's amazing. And I'm asking people to help me out on Patreon. That's the difference in what's happening in the world. So anyway, help me out on Patreon. Why don't you do that? Don't be a dick. Patreon.com/NickDShow. So I was watching it, and they were showing people having accidents while they were sledding. And that got me to thinking, basically, okay, look, I was a kid in the 70s, okay? And half of my teenage years were in the 70s, and the other, third of it was in the early 80s. So I was like a teenager from 1978 to 1988. No, 1978 to 1984. Or 83, 84. Those were my teenage years. So, I was a child of the 70s. I was a teenager of the late 70s, early 80s. So basically, I should be dead, is what I'm saying. And I think the generation before me should also be dead, meaning that kids were allowed to do a lot of shit and play with a lot of toys and do a lot of crazy fucking shit when they were kids that you could never get away with now. We talk about how times have changed all the time, and you can't say certain things or make certain jokes, and now almost every movie pre-1997 is offensive, even movies from 1997. Basically, if a movie wasn't made yesterday, it's probably fucking offensive to somebody. Especially a movie that was made, 25, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Everybody fucking hates everything now. You can't say that, you can't show that, you can't do that. Fuck off. I'm sick of it. Anyway, you certainly wouldn't let your kids do the kind of shit that I did when I was a kid, that my friends did when they were kids, and that my parents and my older, relatives and stuff like that did when they were kids. Can't imagine it now. You can't imagine letting your kids do this kind of shit that we used to do when I was a kid. And the kind of toys that we played with. I had chemistry sets when I was a kid. And the generation before me had chemistry sets and shit like that. I did, when I was a little kid, chemistry sets, where you would actually mix a bunch of dangerous liquids together and, I don't know, drink them every once in a while, see what they did to the couch. When I was 8 years old, I was given a wood burning kit so that you could burn wood. And essentially, it was a thing that you would plug into the wall with a handle, and on the end of it, it was basically a soldering iron. I was 8, and I think it was from my uncle. My uncle gave me a wood burning kit, which is essentially plug it in, let it heat up until the metal tip, heats up to the equivalent of 7 times the fucking sun. And then you would burn stuff into blocks of wood. Little pictures or your name or whatever. Couldn't do much with it. It was a metal prong about that long that would heat up to the point where like you could kill everybody with it, and then you would burn shit into wood, and then inevitably everybody would see what would happen. Oh, my sister's got Barbie dolls. Let's see what happens when I put the soldering iron on the Barbie doll's head. So like melted Barbie doll heads and all that. You would set shit on fire. You could set the couch on fire. These were toys that were given. We would drink shit from the chemistry set, plug in a soldering iron, run around and try to kill our sisters. That's what we did, and that's what the generation before me did in order to have fun. Nowadays, you can't do shit. Kids have to be bundled up. You can't let them do this. You can't let them do that. A playground is now all, plastic and rubber and padding, and you got to make sure that the kids are all, like, wrapped up like the kid from the Christmas Story. Anytime you go out, the toys have to be triple and quadruple checked before you're even allowed to play with them. Playgrounds are unbelievably supervised. There are 95,000 adults there to watch. Everything is soft. There's padding everywhere. When I was a fucking kid, there were no adults around. If they were drunk. It was the 70s. They were off in the corner, either smoking pot, drinking, just like praying they never had these fucking kids. All of the playgrounds were metal. They were metal on cement. The seesaws were metal, the swings were metal, the fucking monkey bars were metal, and there was no padding. If you fell off the monkey bars, you fell on cement. Sometimes broken glass was all over the place, cigarette butts everywhere, dog shit all over the place. This was normal. You walk down the street, dog shit on every corner, everywhere you went, cigarette butts, busted glass, everywhere. Garbage everywhere. We used to play in the alleys when I was a kid. We would play like softball or sockball, or we would fuck around in the alleys. In Chicago, I lived by Wrigley Field, and we would play in the alleys. And the alleys had broken glass and rats, all kinds of shit. We would ride our bikes and smash into walls and scrape the shit out of ourselves. Come home bleeding. Your mom would put mercurochrome on, that orange deadly shit, with a stick. It would be applied with a stick. No droplets or a little brush. You wouldn't go to the hospital. You wouldn't go to the emergency room. Your mom would pour mercurochrome on your ass. It would hurt, more pain than you could possibly imagine, 50 times worse than the cut itself. And then you would stain. It would stain your skin for 3 weeks. You would have a bright orange stain with your scar on your leg. 15 minutes after you fell down, split your head open, gushed blood, mercurochrome on it, you were back outside, in the alley, fucking around, breaking glass, riding your bike into brick walls. This is what we did when we were kids. This is what we did. We played with toys, chemistry sets, wood burning kits, lawn darts, of course, which are now illegal. People getting stuck in their heads and in their feet and in their eyes. Clackers. These were like 2 big, hard plastic balls about this size on a string, and you would maneuver them so that these giant, hard wooden balls would clang together until they smashed into your knee or hit your balls. You would lose I can't tell you the number of kids who grew up in the 70s who now have no testicles because they were fucking around with these clackers. You had the bubble plastic, the super elastic bubble plastic, which was a small, tight tube, a straw. You would stick this, out of a tube, you would stick this rubber cement gooey paste, put it on the end of it, and then blow it up. And of course you could inhale it, which means you're inhaling this plastic adhesive substance so that you could get high. So you would blow up these little balls of like really dangerous, toxic, chemical-filled rubber that you would blow up, and then he'd breathe back in, blow up, breathe back in, blow up, breathe back in. It was like smoking rock. So, you're drinking chemistry sets, you're playing with wood-burning kits, clackers are taking your nuts off, you're breathing in toxic fumes from a rubber ball that you're blowing up. There were shrinky dinks. Oh, yeah, don't forget, you could also play with the oven. Shrinky dinks. Put plastic in the oven. There's a thing for you. How great is that? Put plastic in your oven. You want to make these little things, you paint them, they're made of rubber, and then you stick them in a 400-degree oven. Because, when you're 8, what you want to do is have your kid throw plastic into an oven. So it fills up the entire apartment with toxic fumes. And then you play with the little shrinky dinks or whatever the fuck they were. There were creepy crawlers. These were things where you wanted to make little bugs. You would put them together, and it came with a thing maker, which was this little plastic thing that came in the box. You would put the creepy crawler little rubber thing in it, and it would heat up to 300 degrees. Kids were burning themselves. They were setting the coffee tables and floors and rugs on fire. They didn't matter. Of course, parents didn't care. They were drunk. They were high. It was the 70s. Who gives a shit? Yeah. So anyway, in the 70s, we did all kinds of crazy shit all the time. And the parents, they didn't give a shit. It was a different time. We used to go out. My parents didn't know where the fuck I was. I'd come home like 9 o'clock at night. The streetlights would come on. Half an hour, 45 minutes after the streetlights came on, we were kind of supposed to go in. But we were playing in the streets, we were playing in the alley, we were playing touch one, catch all. We were knocking shit, breaking windows, doing all kind of climbing up on garage roofs and jumping off, punching each other in the fucking face. We'd come home at night, parents didn't know where they were, where we were. They were talking to their friends, the neighbors were outside, they were all smoking weed and getting drunk. That's what was happening in the 70s. I once got bit by a dog. A dog bit me. And it was our friend, a family friend's dog bit me, like ripped open the side of my body. This was on Thanksgiving, and it was a dog that I knew, German Shepherd, bit me. And then my parents, it was Thanksgiving night, so they'd been drinking with their friends who were the owners of the dog. The dog bit me. I'm like 10 I was 12. It was 1977, so I was 12. Get bit by the dog. Terrifying. I'm terrified. And it just so happens that the woman who owned the dog, she and her husband, who had their kids, who I hung out with, she was a nurse, so she sewed me up. Didn't go to the hospital. Didn't get a rabies shot. Nothing. These people who had been drinking Yago Sangria after eating turkey, they were smoking cigarettes, drinking Yago Sangria and other cocktails. This woman sewed me up after her dog bit me, and this was fine. Okay, it's fine. Dog wasn't disciplined. The dog would have been put down. My parents would have sued those people, their friends, if that happened today. But no, it's like, sew the kid up. You're a nurse. Sew him up. Let's get back to drinking Yago Sangria. And that really happened. I'm not kidding. I was sewn up by a drunk nurse whose dog bit me. This was the 70s, and that was fine. I was fine with it. I don't know. I've been going to therapy for a while, but I'm fine. So anyway, anybody who grew up in the 70s should be fucking dead now. We should all be dead. Anybody. Okay? But one of the things that I was watching on the ridiculousness, as I mentioned, was sleds. Now, I was 13 when one of the biggest blizzards to hit the Midwest, Chicago in particular, nailed us. And it was called the Blizzard of 79. And it happened in January of 1979. I was 13 years old when it happened. And we got fucking 20 some inches of snow. It was ridiculous. It went on for like 3 days, then there was a break for a week, and then we got nailed again. So it was like almost 2 weeks of incredible snow that piles up. Now, the snow removal systems in Chicago have never been great. And in fact, this is one of the reasons why Mayor Byrne got elected was because of snow removal, because Bolandic didn't do such a great job. But anyway, the point is that there was this massive blizzard, and we were off from school a lot. Now, I grew up in a house. If you're ever on the Brown Line and you live in Chicago, if you're ever at the Brown Line Ravenswood Addison stop, the Addison stop on the Brown Line, the first house that you see right next to the Brown Line, a green house, that's the house I grew up in, the second floor apartment. And my bedroom was the last window in the back of the building. So I grew up, I could look out the window and see people standing on the platform of the L. They could look inside our apartment. They could look inside my bedroom. And I grew up with that. I had the L stop right next to me. So I grew up with L. I live next to it. I'm sure if you watch these videos, you can hear the L behind me because I live right across the street from a Blue Line stop. But it doesn't bother me. I'm completely used to all. I grew up with an L train fucking 20 feet outside my bedroom window. So anyway, so the L tracks were right next to our apartment, our building. And underneath the L tracks it was like an open lot. And people would park underneath the L tracks. You could park there. You didn't need permits. It wasn't called Wrigleyville then. It was Lakeview. I mean, it was on Addison, and it was about 7 blocks away from the park. And this was like Addison, Ravenswood, Lincoln. That was the intersection where I lived. So anyway, you could park under there. So my parents would park under there and blah, blah, blah. So there was a mobile gas station. It's now condos, but there was a mobile gas station / car wash that was right on the other side of the empty lot underneath the L tracks next to our apartment. So it was our apartment, small backyard, the lot with the L tracks over it, mobile gas station next to that. Well, when the 78 storm hit, the 1979 storm, late 78 or early 79, blizzard of 79, they got plows and plowed all the snow underneath the L tracks next to our house into that lot and piled it all the way up. Like a gigantic mountain of snow was shoveled and piled into underneath the L tracks. So immediately my friends and I, my friend Danny and my friend Larry and my other buddies, Frank and all the guys we used to hang out with, all were like, okay, let's get garbage can lids. Let's get the round sleds with the two handles, the round circular sleds, and we're going to slide down and we're going to go nuts because it was a mountain. So the mountain of snow was so high. Again, unsupervised. My parents were like, yeah, get a garbage can lid, whatever. Get a piece of metal. Jump on the fucking snow. Who cares? Whatever. It's 1978. I've got to go drink and smoke with our friends. So anyway, we would climb up to the top of this mountain of snow. And again, you would never see a mountain of snow this big underneath L tracks now. It would be disposed of in some other way. But these guys hired like a private plowing company, and they just plowed it right underneath the L tracks into that lot. You could climb up, and we did do this. You could climb up to the top of the mountain of snow, the big giant pile of snow, and you could touch the bottom of the L tracks. So you could actually pull yourself up and climb on and walk around and actually climb onto the L tracks. You know, and you would be like, so like you would see a kid's head like come up. If you're standing on the platform and you're looking down at the L tracks, suddenly you could see a kid's head just pop up and go, "Hey, how's it going?" Because they're pulling themselves up. You know, a train could come, boom, take their head right off. But that was just like, hey, it's the 70s, 1979. Let's climb up on top of this mountain of snow and hang at the bottom of the L tracks. Hey, so what if your hand slips and you hit the third rail and you die? Could happen. Who gives a shit? Our parents are smoking and drinking. Everybody's loaded. Who gives a shit? So we would actually slide. So this pile of snow was cold too for a long period of time. This is January 1979. So this mountain of snow lasted a long time. A long time. And it would start to melt a little bit slower and slower. At first, again, we could climb up, and we did pull ourselves up onto the L tracks and do all that great shit, hang from the bottom, balance ourselves up. And we would climb on the L tracks anyway, even if there was no snow. But anyway, so the snow, now this was right on Addison. Okay, right on Addison. Addison is a main street. It's not a side street. It's a fucking main street. And it was right near a stoplight, which was Lincoln, Ravenswood area. There was a stoplight right there, a viaduct and a stoplight. And it was also like 6 blocks away from Wrigley Field. So Addison was one of the busiest streets in the city. People would drive down it to go to Wrigley, and it was a popular street anyway without Wrigley Field being there. So it was a major street. So we would climb up on top and then slide down into the back area, and then we started to slide down, and we would jump on these things and push each other down and slide out across into Addison, like we would slide out into the street. Cars would they would have to stop. It would hit the brakes because we were sliding. We're like on the mountain of snow, sliding off of that, out of the lot, right onto Addison Street. And the L stop across the street there were doors to the L stop. We could actually slide all the way across the street. And we did this all the time. Cars would stop in the middle of the street. Bam, bam, bam. We almost would hit by bus. There was a bus stop right there. Like right there was a bus stop. So buses would stop. We would fly across the street on our sleds coming off of this giant mountain after we just touched the third rail. We did this all the time, and I can't tell you how bummed we were when there would be, warm weather, because that means that the mountain would melt slowly, and slowly we lost it, and then by the beginning of March, it was pretty much gone. But for about a solid month and a half, we were this close to fucking dying every day. Almost touching the third rail, hanging on the bottom of L tracks, flying on our metal garbage can lids, down the mountain and out onto Addison in front of running traffic. And I'm not exaggerating, I'm not making this up, it's all real. Then we would go inside, we would play with our chemistry sets, we would drink a bunch of liquid, we would smack each other with clackers, we would throw lawn darts into each other's eyes, and we would ingest rubber toxic fumes from the rubber ball balloons that we were blowing up. We should all be dead. We should all be dead. But particularly that mountain of snow, it was for a while, it was a godsend. Like all of my friends were like, this is the coolest. And I was the coolest guy in the world because it was right outside my apartment. Like it was right outside. Every day I could walk out 6 feet and there's this giant, huge pile of snow where I could hang from the L tracks and slide myself on a garbage can lid right out onto Addison Street and cause a 10-car crack up and possibly get my ass killed. It was great. It was fucking great. So, yeah, you grew up in the 60s, you grew up in the 70s, you should be dead. We should all be dead, but we're not. So, you know, when I see all of the stuff that's happening nowadays and has been happening for, you know, look, I understand you want your kids to be safe. You want everybody to be safe. You want everything to be okay. But, you know, I grew up in a time when that certainly was not the case. And sometimes I miss those days. You know, sometimes I miss them. I miss kids that are like, you know, if I see a kid doing something insane on his bike or doing something nutty, it's like, good for you, man. Every once in a while, a kid should be this close to fucking death when he goes out to play. We did it all the time. If we came home without an injury, it was not a successful day. Like, if I came home without, like, needing stitches, my parents would be like, wow, what did you do today? Stay in? What happened to you? Wuss? So, anyway, so I thought I would share that with you. I was watching ridiculousness and people sledding and having sledding accidents. Well, you know what? We didn't have video cameras or phones back then, but if we did, there would have been an entire, not episode, but an entire season dedicated to the kind of shit that my friends and I used to do in the alleys, on the streets, and on that snow pile. It would have been Ridiculousness 77. Digilio. That's what it would have been. So, anyway. All right, so keep your kids safe, though. Please, 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 please. Don't be like me, growing up in the streets and, you know, getting a cut every 15 minutes, getting bit by a friend's family dog, and then getting sewn up by a drunk nurse in a bedroom, in an apartment bedroom. Don't do that. So, yeah, don't let your parents take you to see The Exorcist when you were 8. You know, if your dad took you to see The Exorcist when you were 8, and you were allowed to play with chemistry sets, and you were allowed to climb up onto L tracks and get bit by a dog and then sewn up by a drunk family friend, you're going to turn out like me. So don't do that. You don't want to turn out like me. I'm asking people for money on Patreon, okay? And I think that's probably because I ingested too much super elastic bubble plastic. That's probably what happened. Hit my head on Addison when I flew off the thing. That's why I'm asking people for donations. Anyway, patreon.com/NickDShow. Help me out.